Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Well, I thought I'd put together a quick little video for this week. As you can see, I've been moving things about and bringing out some things that have been put away for quite some time. And today I brought out my Pioneer PL90 turntable and thought it was something maybe to highlight again. It's been, I think, a year or two since I touched base on it. But when I look at current turntables and what's available, most of them are rather, similar looking in the way they have these little thin plinths these days, and their look is just sort of similar. Whereas, from my perspective anyway, vintage turntables, although the majority of them did have sort of a standardized plinth, they did have quite a few different looks to them and controls and things like that differentiated them amongst different brands. You can tell a JVC, for example, versus, say, a Pioneer turntable. And they made them, kind of distinguishable amongst the different brands. They had their sort of style. Pioneer had quite a number of model lines that were quite different. And this one certainly set itself apart from the pack, I'll say. This is late 80s, so that is sort of the peak and when manufacturers were trying to throw everything they could at the turntable, or to the record market, because of the CD had come in several years prior. So they were trying to really make the possible consumer that was interested in a turntable take notice of their turntable. And so on this one, the one thing that right off the bat sets it apart from other turntables is the cover, the dust cover itself, where it has these cutouts to accommodate going around the suspension on the turntable itself. So not a standard dust cover by any means, not just your basic, almost square dust cover that would fit in, look like it's interchangeable to just about everything. Not so with the PL90. So you certainly want to, take note and be cautious if you've got one of these to make sure you don't damage it. This one's in excellent shape because you probably aren't going to find one that's going to just fit due to the way that the plinth is set up in this suspension system. So that's kind of the first thing that makes it different from other turntables. After that, this huge platter certainly separates it. A bit of, feels overbuilt. Everything about the table is substantial feeling. I think it weighs about 35, 40 pounds. So it's it's pretty heavy. When you pick it up, you certainly feel it. And it's not automated. It has just auto stop at the end, and that's it. It is manual for the most part. Has a ceramic tone arm on it, and the tone arm, or I should say, the head shell is built into the tone arm. You remove the tone arm by a little latch here, a little screw that locks it into place. Loosen that, it pulls straight out, and then you can flip over the head shell and then replace the cartridge on there. But also, being ceramic, it's brittle. You don't want to drop it or subject it to any, trauma because that would be pretty severe. For any turntable, really, obviously, you don't want to put your tone arm in any danger. I did want to point out, so if you are somebody that owns one of these and you need to do some maintenance to it, or you need to get into the internals of this on the underside, something that I don't think is pointed out in the service manual, and that is how to get in there. And you do that there's these little covers here on top of the suspension for each corner. And these covers, the access to get to remove them is inside here. Well, how do you get in there? Well, you have to turn it, and there's no grip on it. You kind of have to get something, not sticky, but something with a grip, and you can turn it counterclockwise about a quarter of an inch or a half inch, and it's a little locking mechanism. It will turn a bit counterclockwise, and then it will lift out. And then obviously to replace it, you put it back in the groove and then push it down and then turn it again clockwise, and that locks it into place. Once you remove that, you have access to, I think it's a screw in there, I can't remember, screw or hex head, to get access to being able to remove this, so that way you can remove the bottom and get inside there. So if you're someone that has one, you don't need to pry it up with a screwdriver and damage it. You just need to take your time. And if these are stuck by any means, you might need to figure out a way to get a little grip on it to twist it and then, pry it out. So a little bit of a suggestion there. But very cool turntable. These are, as I said, were meant to distinguish themselves from the pack and sort of give a buyer some incentive. Meant to be seen, right? As big as it is, takes over the top of your, whatever you're putting your stereo on. This would have been a rather large rack if you were going to put this on top of a rack. And it has huge feet. It's all about the suspension, by the way. That was the main selling feature of these isolation components here that sort of, I don't think it's not like an air, but it separates it from the plinth in a way that sort of takes away the vibration. And it's a pretty cool setup. Tone arm is nice and substantial looking, and sort of fits the aesthetic of the turntable. So really cool. I thought I would bring it out and let you guys see it. It's got a nice nameplate on the front here. I'll give you an up-close picture of that. But again, late 80s, around 87, I think this was brought out. I can't remember off the top of my head, but sometime around that time frame. And, these are on the used market. To get something that looks sort of distinguished like this, I think separates itself from, what looks kind of common. I think you got to get up there a pretty good bit. Most of the current turntables, rather similar looking. They have thin plinths on them, a standard shape. They look to me like a lot of them are made from the same manufacturer, and they maybe just put different brands on them. But this one certainly is different. These will probably this is a very collectible one. This one also has the box, but even at that, I think you're as far as the price point is concerned, you're probably getting into a nice new turntable. That's a heads above something else. But to get to this sort of look that's distinguishable from everything else, you probably are getting in 10K plus on a current turntable. It just has that sort of commanding presence. So anyway, that's it. Now these are distinguishable as well, but not as much as, say, the Nakamichi turntable. And I'll show you some pictures of that right now. The Nakamichi TX1000 was quite the beast. I would call that an exotic. They only sold about 400 of them, so quite rare. These were sold in much higher numbers, still fairly rare, but nothing like a super exotic. Of course, the TX1000 from Nakamichi was $6,000 or $7,000 at retail in 1980. So quite a different expenditure and quite a different level from the majority of turntables. So anyway, this is what's available out there in the used market. If you're going to try and compare, say, a used turntable to a new one, these are the kinds of things that you can find out there in the used market. But anyway, that is a quick overview. Moving on in some other things I just posted. This is a nice little Kenwood receiver here. I just posted this one, as well as a second turntable from Kenwood. And I have quite a few other things that are coming up pretty soon. So stay tuned for that. I am heading down, if you are looking at anything and are unable to reach me and come here to pick it up, I'm heading down to North Florida on Tuesday of this week. And I'll be hitting Lake City, going to go see good friend Mike at ATO Audio, and going to stop off and see him. And then I'm heading across I-10 all the way to Mobile, Alabama on Tuesday, so it's going to be a long day. And then from there, I'm going to head north to Atlanta and then back to North Carolina. So if you're anywhere in a driving distance of that general route, give me a shout if there's something that you are interested in, and I will see about bringing it with me and meeting you somewhere along the way. So that'll do it for this week. Very brief. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you soon.